today we are going to put the spotlight on a very interesting and exciting company, WonderFi Technologies, and I have the pleasure to have with us Ben Samaroo, their CEO. Ben, welcome.
Josh, great to be here.
Ben, we have a good half an hour ahead of us to talk a bit about your organization, but I would like to start it with getting back to the basics. There's lots of people out there that know your organization very well. We can see that with the activity in your stock, but I'm sure there's also still a lot of people who don't know your organization and who would be keen to learn more. So could I ask you to give us a bit of an overview of WonderFi Technologies and from a perspective of what is it that you're doing, what is your value proposition, what are the core services that you are bringing to the market?
Absolutely. We're a technology company, and our mission with WonderFi really is to democratize finance. So what that means is creating accessible and inclusive finance. And I know there's a lot of people that are paying attention to the crypto space and to the DeFi space, but for those who aren't, I think it's important to see we're at a really exciting time where we've got new technology that it's creating the potential for a better financial system. So that's when I talk about that, I'm talking about DeFi, and that's the potential of bank accounts for people that don't have access to banking, access to credit for people that don't have access to credit in the traditional system. It's the ability to earn interest on assets, and we're seeing in traditional savings accounts, people really are not getting that type of interest, or it's next to nothing. And DeFi is offering much more attractive interest rates. And really it's just leveling. It has the potential to level the playing field for really everything in finance, from the banking services that I talked about to investment opportunities. It's really all financial products reinvented in a more fair and equitable way. And with WonderFi, we're building technology and using our access to try and really democratize the access to this new technology. There's a lot of, as I mentioned, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of potential behind it, but we're at a very early stage when only a very small percentage of people can actually use and benefit from what DeFi has to offer. And we're laser focused on building the simplest and most accessible technology to bring this phenomenon from the early adopter stage into the early majority market segment, and then to the masses beyond that.
So Ben, zooming in a little bit on that. So I'm a big believer in, as you know, in decentralized finance, and I can see that indeed growing for the moment at an exponential rate, and just look at the assets that are being accumulated in the various types of assets that are being used and leveraged to enable DeFi applications. When I look at WonderFi, do I look at you as an organization that is going to provide me with applications that I can use to do what you said, generate better yields, enable remittance, whatever it is? We can think about lots of solutions where you can democratize finance. Or am I more looking at an organization that is providing me access to those assets, those digital assets that fuel DeFi finance? Or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. So from the technology and product side, for people that have played around in DeFi, you will know that the biggest problem is that it's extremely fragmented and it's very complicated. Even for people that have been in the crypto space for a long time, it takes a lot of research and a lot of time and energy to figure out what DeFi protocols to use, where to put your assets, what you're going to earn, how to report that, what the risks are. And so what we're doing from a technology perspective is WonderFi, you can think of it as an integrator. So it's really an integration play where we're not, for those that are familiar with DeFi protocols like Uniswap and Compound and Aave, et cetera. We're not competing with those protocols. They're doing amazing work and building the core technology for this space. And what we're doing is we're integrating and providing access to all of those opportunities in a curated, simplified way. And that's really, we landed on that as the mission and approach for our product through a lot of testing ourselves, and then a lot of testing with users and potential users that were looking to get into the space. And again, it all came back to really the same messaging for people that are not crypto traders and those early adopters. And the messaging that we kept hearing was, this looks really cool, but what do I do with it? And I think the other big message that we kept hearing, which is really common, is that people want to get involved in crypto and DeFi. They want to participate, but they often feel like they feel like they're too dumb to do it. And part of the reason is because a lot of the existing applications and a lot of the communication around what's happening in DeFi is at such a high level that it estranges your average person from getting in, which is a big problem because, again, going back to our mission and really the purpose of DeFi, it is to democratize finance. It's something that can provide, this level playing field, which we don't have in traditional finance right now. And so it's really important for companies like WonderFi to be laser focused on that mission and really help us get to that broad level of adoption. Otherwise, we just end up with a new financial system that a different select group has better access to than the rest. And then it's all for nothing. So I think it's really important to stay focused on that. But going back to your question, Joss. So from a technology perspective, that's where we fit within the crypto and the DeFi space. We grow as the ecosystem grows. So as new protocols come out, we integrate, provide access, partner, et cetera. And then from an asset standpoint, we do invest in infrastructure in the space. And so when I say infrastructure, that's staking nodes on chains like Ethereum. It is doing similar investments in competing chains like Solana that don't have the level of activity that we see on Ethereum right now, but do have a lot of benefits and could be a core focus of DeFi going forward. So we're really looking at investing and providing access to all of these leading infrastructure options right now.
Yeah. So I get that. So one, it's providing access to the protocols, allow people to invest in it and help them simplify it. Because I fully hear what you say. It is complex, and it has been a world that has been, limited to the few, and you're simplifying it. And then you are also investing in opportunities and infrastructure based on the vision of how it evolves. Mm-hmm. You have here someone who is eagerly or is very excited also about what you're doing, and the question is, your shareholders are eagerly awaiting the release of the app. Are there any updates that you can give at this time? Ben, that's a good question.
So all of the development work is done on the app. We're just finalizing logistics around the launch. So we'll be updating the market as soon as we have a launch date pinned down. But we're really excited about it. It's going to be something that is different than anything that's on the market right now. And again, we're really targeting that entry level user versus somebody that is already onboarded into crypto and into DeFi. And so I think it's going to be something that that gets a lot of really positive reception around the questions of what what can I do with DeFi? Like, what's the value? Why am I here? Why am I using this? Rather than people that have already been sort of initiated, know what they're looking for, etc. So we're super excited about that, and definitely we'll be having we'll have updates coming very very soon on the app.
Thanks, Ben, and yeah, I can imagine that people are eagerly waiting for it. The next question I had for you, there is your vision and the offering and the proposition that you bring to market, which of course feel very unique. But what else makes Wondify a unique organization? Like, where are you different than others? Like, I don't see much other organization coming with those kinds of access and democratization solutions that you talk about. I see others also investing in protocols and assets and infrastructure. What makes you different?
To me, a company is just the people behind it. And the way to look at WonderFi as a team, we're all builders basically everybody except for a couple of people on our executive team and marketing side are engineers. And we see that as being, for me, that's incredibly important. We've got extremely talented engineers, people that have worked with products and companies like Shopify, Hootsuite, PayPal, some of these products that have been used by millions and millions of people. And so we've been able to attract this excellent engineering talent to help build this sector out. And I think that's extremely important. And our executive team and board and advisors, we've been in the crypto space going back to 2016. I personally first got involved with some of the very first crypto projects to launch in Canada and the US back in 2016 and 2017. And our team's been part of major players in the space like Galaxy Digital, Hut 8, Argo, and so on. So I think there's a lot of institutional knowledge, experience, and learnings from working with these companies in the crypto space, and then again going back to some of these technology companies that I mentioned, where our engineers have been trained and have built some really really exciting products. So I think we're doing something that is building a very high growth product, which has a lot of optionality. Our focus is really bringing in as many users as we can into the space and just onboarding people into crypto. And there's many opportunities that come from there as you capture that user base.
And I think talking about the team, you said quite a few words about the team, and the team is critical. Like we all have our own rules, but I can tell you my view on investing in early stage or growth companies is 50% going to be driven by the team. And I think you put a fabulous team together. And I think you also got acknowledgement for that by some of your backers and investors. And I'm thinking, of course, about Mr. O'Leary, who is pretty picky in where he puts his investment dollars. Let's talk a bit about the way forward. Like if you try to look in the future, and I know it's a bit of a crystal ball, so it's not always that easy, but where do you see yourself in 2-3 years? And I'm not going to say 5, because anyone who can say 5 can figure out what they will do in 5 years. I don't believe. So where do you see yourself in 2-3 years, and how do you see yourself developing? From a product perspective, geographical perspective, just name it.
What we're building WonderFi into is a global leader in the DeFi and the crypto space. That's the sort of catch-all that I'll say. And going back to your points earlier, that is product and engineering. That is our core focus, and then access in other ways, like our investments in assets and infrastructure will continue to grow. So I even fast forwarding, 6 months, a year, I really see WonderFi as a leader from that perspective. It's something that provides people with better access, whether it's through our stock for investors, for traditional equity investors, or through our app and other products that will come in terms of accessing the DeFi space and everything that comes from that. That's the broad view, and I think right now we're laser focused on the app and really just bringing in as broad of an audience as possible. And the way that evolves as we go is we have the app coming, which is really focused around more of the traditional, more financial service focused, as that's where a lot of usage in DeFi is coming. But there's going to be a lot of other opportunities to drive new users into the space, and we're exploring those avenues as well, because they, I think there's non-conventional ways to bring people into the space, especially when we look at the needs and desires of different demographics. So if we're looking at, my generation, or our generations, Joss, I think people are most often interested with earning interest on their assets and asset appreciation. But when we look to Gen Z, for example, there is an interest in building wealth, but there's also an interest in just participating in this new movement. There's the way that they look at digital assets really as the starting point, and so the desires and kind of motivations, I should say, are a lot different. So that opens up a lot of different opportunities to attract new users, which is really going to be it really is our core focus from the product side. And then in terms of where we see ourselves in the space, we've already started partnering with some of the existing leaders, the Circles, the FTXs, DeFi Pulse, et cetera. And so we'll continue to align ourselves with the companies that we see aligned with our mission and helping to move the ecosystem and this industry forward.
So there's also a big partnership component in your entire business model, and then you're thinking about from what you say, other types of apps which are maybe less driven by financial considerations, but other drivers. And I'm not going to push you in unveiling anything over here. I can imagine that you want to keep that to yourself. When you look at the future, there's also something else we always need to talk about, and I see a question that came up with respect to that. That is the evolution of the regulatory environment, and I'm sure you have, like I have, seen recently a number of announcements from some of the security regulators, some of the leading securities regulators globally, saying that they're going to now start looking at DeFi. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you see that? Do you see that as a positive? Do you see that as a concern, a hurdle? What are your views on that?
I think regulation is part of the growth of this ecosystem, and that's not unique to crypto and DeFi. Any new technology, regulation is an inherent part of that. And so I think the way that I look at the space, and our team does, is we look back to learnings and the evolution from 2016 going forward, which is when a lot of us first got involved. And it takes a while for regulation to evolve, and it evolves differently in different places. And market events also drive certain regulatory decisions. And I think that there is this feeling sometimes from people that are newer to the crypto space and into DeFi, is that when there's an announcement about a regulator, whether it's a bill being passed or a statement from a regulator, et cetera, there's this feeling of, this is the end. I think people get spooked, and there's this feeling that it's going to really weed out everything, all the innovation that's happened. And I just don't think that's the case. We've seen it time and time again. Basically if the technology is offering a better and a faster and a cheaper way to do finance in this case, it will find a way, and regulation will play a part of that. It takes a lot of collaboration between industry and regulators. In DeFi and crypto, it takes a lot of collaboration amongst regulators because in a lot of cases these applications and protocols are borderless, and so we're starting to see a bit more of that. Although it certainly is quite segmented in a lot of cases, but we see organizations or initiatives like GFIN, which is a bunch of the major securities regulators of the world, looking at really the purpose of that is trying to help provide a more certain path for companies that want to launch products in multiple jurisdictions. And so I think those types of initiatives are extremely helpful. But for anybody in the crypto and the DeFi space, regulation is always a part of it's a part of the business, it's a part of the plan, and it really takes time and effort to be able to monitor and really kind of understand, engage with regulators to figure out sort of where things are heading, and that does inform product development, launch strategy, and all of that. So I think it's a part of the process. And then as you start to see regulation of things like stablecoins and different areas in the space, it certainly is a positive. It provides more comfort and more certainty to the next wave of adopters. Early adopters don't care as much about regulation. They're willing to take
don't like it
or don't like it. Yeah, but it's kind of like regulation's just like, oh, it's just annoying. But for people that are coming in that next wave, they certainly do care. They care about regulation. They care about compliance, and so it's a necessary. It's not. Some people say it's a necessary evil. It's not a necessary evil. It's a necessary part of mass adoption.
One last question I would like to ask you. I'm an investor and I would like to invest in Wondify. Is it the right time? Like, am I too late? Because I've seen, a great ride so far, or is it too early, or is the timing good? What are your thoughts? And I don't want you to give advice, of course, because neither you or I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, it was just frozen for a second there. So the way that I would look at this is we're growing Wonderfy into a leader in the DeFi and the crypto space. That's the vision for the company, and that's how we're approaching it. So I would look at DeFi as sort of a good indicator to see where we're at. We're incredibly early in DeFi. I think that sometimes it can feel like it's reached this huge. We've seen so much growth already that it can sometimes feel like, okay, this is as far as we're going. But just to put into perspective, we just crossed the $100 billion mark in the size of the DeFi industry. I'll just put it that way, and that's grown 5 times from November last year. So from 20 billion up to 100 billion. Yep. And this is, so we're seeing real use cases, real disruption of financial services, which is a $20 trillion industry. So 5 times growth in 1 year, and we're still at 1/1000th of the size of the financial services industry. So the potential for growth in DeFi is really incredible, and it's potentially even bigger than that $20 trillion number, because it's again addressing a lot of the accessibility issues that exist in finance today, and that's what we're working on at WonderFi, and a lot of other really talented people in the space as well. So we're positioning ourselves to capture a lot of value within this and really just to help the ecosystem grow. We're very early. We're just getting started. We just listed on the Neo a couple of months ago. Definitely have seen some good growth, but I would say this is just the first inning for us, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, and that is not advice, but it's some very interesting observations, if I can put it that way. Maybe the very last question for you, Ben. We have about 2 minutes left. What took you to list on Neo?
Well, it's really talking to other companies, high growth companies in Canada and elsewhere. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of amazing entrepreneurs and founders, and I, before we listed WonderFi on the Neo, had a lot of conversations, did a lot of research diligence around where we wanted to take the company. And for me, my takeaway from talking to a lot of my peers was that the Neo is where high growth technology companies go to list in Canada now. That's companies that are looking to grow rapidly, become leaders in their sector, and my understanding is it's a great springboard for uplisting to the London Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ. It's a senior exchange, so we get right up to the higher reporting standards right away, which I think it's really beneficial, especially in emerging industries like this where transparency is important. And so we've seen some amazing examples of companies that have gone on that path, and that was really my decision, was driven by a lot of conversations with people that had gone on the path of the Neo previously.
Thank you for that, Ben. The word is spreading, as they say, and I'm very happy that we can play a key role in enabling, as you said, growth companies. That's about your success, but it's also the success of our economy overall, and we're very happy to be able to be a part of that. Ben, it's the half hour is already passed by, so what I would like to do is say a very, very big thank you to you for sharing those insights and being very candid in your thoughts and ideas. I would also like to say a big thank you to the audience for joining us. Feel free to reach out if there are other questions, more questions. We'll make sure to pass them on to Ben and his team, and I know that they will get back to you very rapidly. I'm going to wish you tremendous success. I know that you will execute, and I think you are in what is one of the most exciting spaces for the moment, decentralized finance. Ben, thank you for being with us, and have a wonderful day.